it's in a way a sort of no-lose situation for us. We look upon it as that. A couple of weeks back, I referred to it as a dog's chance. It's now marginally more than a dog's chance, but still not in control of our own destiny. But happy to be here, and the backstop of the playoffs if necessary.
What do you like injuries-wise and that sort of stuff, Steve?
Glenn's going to be struggling, I think, although we'll wait until the last minute for him. He's the only one from the other night. Everyone else is okay. Jay Tabu, who had a virus, he back training today. He'll be okay.
You've been playing a little bit freer these last couple of weeks, just because in some ways, as you mentioned, the pressure's sort of been off a little bit in your favour.
I don't think it's got anything to do with the pressure. I think the surfaces we played on have helped. We had our best results sort of early on in the year when the surfaces were good. We like to try and pass and run with the ball, and the ball's sort of bobbling up and down by your knees somewhere. It's very hard to do. So I think that's helped us sort of express ourselves a little bit more.
How are you expecting the pitch to be?
No, fine. We've worked very hard on it. There hasn't been any action on it for a while. Bruce, the groundsman, as always, crafted away, and this weather's perfect. So I would expect the pitch to be much improved from, our recent games.
Where does the psychology work with a game like this one, Steve, where obviously a lot of it depends on what's happening elsewhere? You can win it and it might not matter, or you can win it and it does matter. Or
whatever happens, we want to win it, because I think if we went into the playoffs with 3 victories, I think that's a good sign. It doesn't guarantee anything, but it's a good sign. So just from that point of view, it's important. I always think that the way a team finishes one season has an effect on the beginning of the next. It shouldn't do, but somehow it does. And I think statistically, if you look at it over the years, it always does. The events going on elsewhere, as I say, you trust in the integrity of the league. Neil Warnock was in a situation a couple of years back where I think he felt aggrieved that some Premiership clubs didn't put out their strongest lineups in important games. And, as I just trust, as I say, in the integrity of the league, that it will be a fiercely competitive game right across the board in the division.
Is Wally Downs a good luck message from Neil Warnock?
It's a non-issue, that. It's an old issue. It's stale. It's dead. It was one confrontation years ago. I'm sure Neil doesn't do anything and have Wally in mind, and Wally certainly doesn't do anything and have Neil in mind. So just get on with our jobs.
Does what happens in the next couple of weeks, playoffs, automatic promotion, have any impact on your future at the club?
No, I wouldn't say so. Obviously I've had to respond to the article that was in the paper last week. I've got no intention of retiring. I only sign 1 year at a time, so that at the end of the season I can make a decision. But this is a lovely club, and it's a wait and see. It's not even a discussion at the moment, because we've got so much concentration on the actual football.
So it sounds like you don't even know. You don't know what's going to happen next.
Well, I don't. I didn't know last year. Last year, according to my contract, I was going to leave. Even though I'd signed a 2-year, I had an escape clause if we got relegated. And then at the end of the season, I had a chat with the chairman, and I ended up staying. So that's exactly what I'll do again. At the end of the season, I'll have a chat with the chairman, and we'll see what happens.
So it's certainly not another case of going to another club. It's either.
No, I've got no. I don't even think about it. I really don't. I think about Birmingham an awful lot, but I certainly don't think about Monday and what's going to happen. only in relation to if we're in the playoffs and we have to plan the week. I'm certainly not. I haven't given it any thought whatsoever, only responding to people who said, I was at Norwich the other week and there must have been a dozen people saying, well, hope you enjoy your retirement. I said, I'm not retiring. I'm 53, I'm not going to retire. What do I want to retire for?
You did give in your last year, this is the long, even with your thousands game, it's the longest stretch you've had in the job continuously, isn't it? For 9 years.
I did. Well, this will be 8 years. I think my first spell with Palace, I think, was 9 years. I think this will be 8 years. So.
But you're not. There's no burnout factor. You're still enjoying it. You still got the same.
People say that to me. Do you enjoy it? Week to week, you don't enjoy it. It's hard work. But I don't complain about it publicly. If people ask, and I say, well, I don't really enjoy it. I enjoy winning. Hate losing. I think that's the makeup of every manager. Some people really, love every minute and every second of it. When you're stuck on the M25 and you're not going anywhere for 4 hours, and you're not telling me people are enjoying that. You're going to watch a game and they close the M1 and you've got to do a detour of 30 miles. There's parts of the job nobody likes. But, that feeling you get when you win a football game, that more than compensates for any heartache you might feel elsewhere.
So this is how many seasons have you had this thing that you're deciding to renew at the end of the season? How many years?
Well, right from day one, really. At Palace for many years, I didn't even have a contract.
I was going to say, it'd be fair to say you've had that same little pause and decision every summer since you've been here, would it?
Yeah.
So the same after, just to clarify, just after the last game, whenever that is, it could be this weekend or the playoffs or whatever. You'll take a few days and then make a decision. Announce it. It's similar to what you did last season.
And every season, I've got no plans. I really have got no plans. I can assure you of that. As I say, that we've got a game against Birmingham on Sunday. That's all I'm thinking about. As a wise man who can live in the now, I'm certainly not going to live in the future. I want to try and enjoy the moment as much as possible.
Okay, Sundays?
I'll cheers.
Player coming as well. Yeah.
Yeah, this is obviously one of Reading's most important games as a club. Would you say it was the most important at this time?
No, because the club is run on sound business terms. I think if some clubs who maybe mortgage their futures to try and get one season in the sun, then I think it might be perceived to be the biggest game in the club's history. But we don't overspend. The club looks after itself. It lives within its means. If it doesn't get promotion, it would just go on, and there would be no massive knee-jerk reaction. If it got promotion, then you can really positively plan for the future. But it's not an issue at the moment, and it's only a good thing if it happens.
Would that have an effect on some pressure that you're under impression that Alex Nucci's under, in a sense that maybe they're looking at it the way you just described?
I don't know. I'm not worried about Birmingham or whatever. I look at my. No, I don't think I did really. I think there's too much put at the psychological implications of the importance of the game. Come 12:15 when we get in the dressing room, it's just another game. If you said to a player, this is massively important for the club's future, he'd say, so what? The game's kicking off 1:15. I want to win the game. Footballers are fairly simplistic. They want to win football games. Even this weekend, there are a lot of games that there's nothing to play for, but come the whistle blowing, you'll have 22 players going hell for leather. It's an instinct within them. They just want to win football matches.
When you first saw the fixture list at the start of the season, you saw Birmingham last week. Did you look and think, oh God?
Well, it's funny, like early on, I've been to Birmingham a couple of times to watch games, and everyone's saying, well, let's hope that it's all done and dusted and we're both promoted come the last game. And then as the season has progressed, you've had that sort of nagging feeling in the back of your mind that this is going to be an important game. And that's the way it's turned out.
Is that the way you felt as a player? Just go out each game, take each game as it comes.
Yeah, you just want to win. You know, you do all the speculation beforehand, you talk about it, you know, obviously cup finals and things like that, you realise that you're going to be watched by, you know, hundreds of millions around the world. But when you're in the dressing room, it's just that base instinct. Well, it's 11 v 11, you know, let's win.
Yeah, because you can do something about it, can't you, as a player, as a manager even. The punter on the terraces, you can do nothing but watch and hope.
And make a lot of noise and be supportive, and you know there is an influence without doubt. The support is an influence, but you know there is no way that anybody qualifies the desire to win. Well, this game is more important than that. This game is more significant. You know, our significant game was when we were looking down the barrel of the gun not so long back, and you know possibly people thinking we weren't even going to make the playoffs because we weren't in a good run.
Looking back in your own career, player and manager, are there many games as important as this one? Or at least the final result could produce?
Well, I have had quite a few. You know, if you look back at, you know, Brentford games, Brighton, Palace, so many games at the end of the year where, you know, even my maybe first and second season here, we went to the last game, and if results had gone a certain way, then we would have been in the playoffs. So there's all those kind of scenarios, and it's happened quite regularly, I think. You know, the last game has had something significant more often than not. Other results had to help.
You always look cool, you know, you always come over as very controlled. Are you churning up inside at all?
Yeah, I would say I am. But again, I think with experience and with more and more games, you know, I try and focus on what's happening and what my job is rather than the outcome. You know, if your concentration's on what's going on the field and how you can influence it, how you can help, how you can, you know, give the boys a lift maybe at half time, or, you know, sometimes knock them down at half time, then you don't get wrapped up in, well, if we win this and they lose that and then this happens and that happens, then voila, we're where we want to be. You know, more and more I've gone game by game. I always say my job's exactly the same, whether we win, lose or draw. I try to make it exactly the same. I don't want to overreact if we get beat. I don't want to get carried away if we win. I just want to be constant, because then, you know, I know I'm just going flat out and doing my job.
Has this been one of the toughest seasons in management?
It's been bemusing. You know, I thought we'd have a sticky start, just as a backlash from
because of what you said earlier,
relegation.
last season, yeah.
Just relegation, I think, you know there's going to be a turnover of players, and we turned a few over, and at the start of the season, you know, all the business wasn't done. You know, I still maintain the ridiculous situation with the transfer window, that, you know, the season started and you've got some players who are desperate to leave, and it's unsettling. And we had an unsettling period and we had some poor results. Then we got into a decent run and we're looking to be a decent side. And then, you know, February came and we had 3 home games. We knew we had 3 home games at the beginning of February. I thought, brilliant. You know, this could give us a little bit of daylight. And we had 1 point from 3 games. Our home form since then has been terrible.
But it's a relentless league, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. You know, after 2/3 of the league, ourselves, Birmingham and Wolves, looked as if it was 2 out of 3 and the third team would win via the playoffs. And since then, it's been chaos theory.
You played some great football in that period when you were playing good football. Is there any reason why it should dip?
No, this is the conundrum for all managers. You know, even Fergie, in his own way, you know, he had that spell where they didn't concede a goal and looked out of this world, and they had a little dodgy spell, and now they're looking strong again. You know, you just trust. You have to trust in your players sometimes, and not get too uptight about it. And, you know, again, realistically, you know, this game is going to be such a hard one for us because of our recent home form. Birmingham arguably very strong and resilient away from home, and we'll probably welcome more an away game at the moment than a home game. So, I'll be as interested as anyone to see how the game formulates on Sunday.
Steve, you mentioned when Liverpool may or may not play. What has he and Dave Kitson brought to you since they came on?
I think both of them were special cases for us because we knew them. I think if we'd have taken two other players, then there would have been that bedding in period where they got to know how you play, what you do, and the way you do things. And I think with both of them, we just saw what we felt, or I felt, was an opportunity. Glenn still lived down the road from when he was here. He wasn't getting a regular game at Portsmouth. There didn't appear to be, or doesn't appear to be, a great future for him there with the change of management. And to save him that journey down to Portsmouth every day, we offered him something here. Kit similarly, he wasn't doing anything at Stoke, and right from the first game this season, I've felt that perhaps we needed a different kind of option up front. All our forwards are of similar physical size. Maybe somebody with a little bit more aerial power would give us the adjustment. And again, we knew him. He likes the club. It's just, I think this is a club you do like. I'm not just saying that, but it is a nice club. But in many ways, he'd felt he'd hit the glass ceiling and wanted to try in the Premiership again. So, he's got something to prove. Glenn's got something to prove, and we knew them. And they've added the expertise they had when they left, and the assurance, I think, of having played at the level and confident ability.
What I was going to say about them is, I remember doing a piece with somebody, a player earlier in the year, who talked about a time he'd been at another club when they'd been in a critical situation. They'd had a number of players on loan, and said, the loan players, they did their best, but it didn't actually matter to them. Where the two of those, because of what you say about their love for the club, it would matter to them. Is that correct?
Yeah, I would think. Again, every signing you make is a gamble, but because we knew them so well, as personalities as well as players, then you cut down the percentages on the gamble. They turn more to your favour.
Yeah, and it matters to them that Reading go back up again, doesn't it?
Yeah.
When you were the early game and then there's Sheffield United games later?
No, at the same time. Yeah. Yeah.
Steve, sorry, on those two boys you just mentioned, Kitson and Little, it's to use your word, bemusing in a way that a number of guys have done very well at Reading. If you add in those two and then Shorey, Sidwell, Sonko maybe, but they've all struggled elsewhere. You've got two other boys back. Nicky Shorey's been on the bench a lot at Villa, so Sidwell. How do you explain something like that? Were it all some key players when they were Reading?
Well, I hate to say it, but it's been fairly consistent throughout my career. Some of the players who've done terrific for me, I could moved on with it. Possibly the obvious exception being Ian Wright, who went on to become the legend that he is.
What did he ever do?
Mark Bright, did okay. Don't get me wrong, he had a good goal-scoring career after he left us. But Andy Grays, Jeff Thomas, a lot of players. The more I think, the more I can think did well, actually. Nigel Martin did all right.
In terms of Reading, they do stand out, those lads. Is it you being able to get the best out of them? I know you're not the sorts of
we do things in a certain way, and certain players, I think, are comfortable in that environment, and they go elsewhere, and things are done differently, different demands. We try and put square pegs in square holes, and we obviously wish them all well, but when they go elsewhere, sometimes they're asked to do different responsibilities, and maybe the things that got them the move, they're not asked to do anymore. I don't know.
Is it fair to say that perhaps the success, particularly thinking about that first season in the Premier League when Sidwell was there then as well, does it suggest also that that the success was down to the team more than individuals.
Oh well, certainly that first season in the Premiership, the team was far in excess of the sum of its parts. We had a young, hungry team win promotion. We had a young, hungry team that first year in the Premiership. That was the first year for nearly all of them, and they all had a point to prove, and that hunger and desire shone through each and every game. And then it changes.
In terms of Sunday, I appreciate you can't affect what goes on elsewhere, but presumably thinking back to last year, it will be impossible for the players not to realise what's going on elsewhere, because it's one of those situations where suddenly fans start cheering when it's nothing to do with what's going on at your game. I mean, did you have that last year when you sensed that Pride Park that something had gone wrong with the Fulham?
Oh no, it was totally different from what I anticipated. Nobody told me anything last year, and I just sensed from early on that Fulham must be winning, and it turns out they didn't win till 10 minutes before the end. So, the atmosphere of the crowd, and I was in the dugout, I wasn't even playing, but I could sense the atmosphere on the pitch, obviously. The atmosphere in the crowd relayed to me that Fulham had scored early and were in control.
So you never thought it was in your grasp last year at all, really, then?
I didn't know, and I'm sure the players didn't.
It was quite late, wasn't it, the goal?
Yeah, but that's why, if we just go into this game, if you have the mentality that, well, let's try and win the game anyway, no reservations, let's just go for a win. It suits the way we play, and come what may at any stage, a win's good for us. Even if Sheffield win elsewhere, it doesn't affect our mentality then going into the playoffs. We're coming into the playoffs on the back of 3 wins. That's important. It gives you a good feel going into it. So for us, our mentality is, let's try and win the game. If we don't win, what a great position. We're in the playoffs anyway. Has no effect. If you start qualifying, well, we had a buzz from the crowd. I have had it on many occasions. You get the opposition starting a rumour in the crowd, such and such has scored, and you can feel a buzz, and all of a sudden you're more concerned about what's the feedback from the crowd. If we just go in there and say, right, 90 minutes, let's try and win the game. No nonsense, no doing anything, then you can't lose. And we can't lose anyway, because we're in the playoffs, come what may.
Sure. Talking about the mentality, Alex McLeish was saying this week that the Birmingham players, and he has to accept that people will be looking at Birmingham and thinking mentally, what state are they in? Being so close last week. I mean, it just seems that the two teams are coming into it from very different perspectives.
No, I would say exactly the same place. But we're definitely going to try and win the game, and they've got to definitely try and win the game, because what a prize to have. Win the game and you're in the Premiership.
20 minutes away from it, that's what I'm trying to say. They were 20 minutes away from being there last week.
Well, now they're only 90 minutes away from it. Exactly the same. They've got a second bite of the cherry. Brilliant. So exciting, I wish I was at home watching it on the telly, to be honest.
Sort of general difference between managing the Premier League and the League.
Bit of press. That's the biggest crowd we've had here. Yeah, it's just the. I always remember when we got promoted, Alan Kirbishley would say that he said to me, I phoned him up once, and he just said to me, you'll notice that the Premiership is now, the game is a 4-day event. You have the build-up the day before, you have the game, then it's analysed on TV, and then the day after it's reanalysed, and then 3 days later you get the final conclusion. And you walk around and your life is determined by your last result. I think most managers feel that anyway, but it's very much intensified in the Premiership.
Obviously, you got 3 games in those 3 days.
Yeah, well, that's another difference. Sometimes you can go an awful long time without playing a game, and it is more demanding on the training field for sure. When you go on great, that's perfect. When you lose, and it's drags.
Shane Long has made a big impact in the last few weeks. How much has he developed as a player this season, and how good can he become?
Who knows? Has he developed? Yes, of course. He's been here quite a while now. We would have expected him to have developed. He doesn't want to be known as a super sub. He wants to be a starter, and a starter who scores regularly. In recent games, you know, he's looked to fill the shoes. He's looked the part. But now it's always been a very competitive atmosphere up front amongst the forwards here at this club. He's possibly suffered because of that, but now he's in control of the shirt. Possession is 9/10 of the law, I always say, as regards the shirt. It's for him to lose, or it's for him to keep tight hold of. And his performances have been terrific last couple of games, and I know he's determined to play equally as well. As for the future, he's got the opportunity, he's got the stage, it's down to him.